Hi everyone! So let's talk about Baby Reindeer. In Baby Reindeer, I was drawn to explore Donny's complex relationships and how his life experiences shaped him, in particular his relationship with his father. I'm going to discuss the impact of unhealed trauma and how projections, and I'll explain what that is, in relationships can create unhealthy dynamics as we saw in Donny and Martha. And I'll share my insights and observations about all of this and even speculate on the untold parts of Donny's story to gain some insight and perspective into his relationships. From the anger of his father to the obsession of Martha, the manipulation of Darrien and his lost connection with Teri, I'll explore how each of these powerful dynamics shaped Donny's life, and him as well. And I'm going to start by diving into the relationship with Donny and his dad. And as I watched this series, and I watched it 3 times if you can believe it, not an easy watch, but one scene in particular always jumped out at me that I thought if more was revealed, it would provide more insight into Donny's lifelong struggle and his journey from the very beginning of his life. And I'll get into that in a minute, but let's start here.
You bet you call me again, I'll come to London and cut your legs off. Yeah, you had your legs. Oh, you will you? Well, that's going to be pretty hard to do with no legs, let me tell you.
How did she get his move?
Mad bitch pretending to be a lawyer, bitch!
So this was our first introduction to Donny's dad. And my first reaction was, this man has a ton of rage. And although Martha accused him of being a child perpetrator, which of course would enrage anyone, I can only say that I felt that his rage was deeper and, had more to do with Martha. I can't explain it, I just felt it, like it's been there for a very long time. Let's keep watching his dad.
How did you respond to that?
Well, you know what your dad's like. He doubled down on it. Told me he had a load of kids in a van outside.
Of course he did.
So this is very telling. I wondered if they are saying that he digs his heels in deeper with his rage. Is his rage familiar to them? And it made me question what his relationship was like, Donny's relationship was like with his father growing up.
The police were too slow to act, too slow to protect us. Then Martha...
A very short but telling scene. As Donny attempts to embrace his father sort of puts a hard stop on that and shakes his hand. There is likely a yearning for closeness that Donny feels, something he may have felt and experienced throughout his whole life with his dad. And Donny's interactions with his dad may have taught him that his emotional needs were not important. And this could have led him to blurred or poor boundaries because of his need for affection and attention. And as we see in his relationship with Martha, where he struggles with empathy, well, it's actually more so projection, and I'll say more about that when I talk about the two of them. But Donny tells us in some way how his upbringing impacted him here.
I miss the confidence he gave me. The feeling of relevancy, of hope that one day my life might actually lead somewhere.
Words you've wanted to hear your entire life, right? I believe in you.
So when someone sees you through the mire of it all, sees you as the person you came here to be, you notice them. You notice them noticing you.
So we witness Donny's longing to be seen and believed in. And he says that he longed to hear that his entire life. And Donny's longing to hear, "I believe in you," reveals a deep-seated need for validation that was likely not fulfilled in his upbringing. But when he says he felt seen by Martha, there are a lot of problems with that, and I'll talk about that when I talk about the relationship between him and Martha. So the next scene, trigger warning, it is about Donny's sexual violence and trauma.
I was raped by a man. I guess I never wanted you to know because I didn't want you to think less of me. As a man.
Oh, Donny, of course, sweetheart.
I have watched this scene many times, and it breaks my heart every time. That scene is so heavy, it is so heartbreaking, as Donny shares his trauma with his parents, and his father's face is gut-wrenching. One of the most striking things in this series is that they were able to show the capacity that one has to blame, self-blame, and shame themselves for the trauma that was done to them. And Donny struggles in how he sees himself as less than a man. I don't know what his father taught him about what it means to be a man. Despite that, the impact of trauma is that one believes that everyone will see you the way you see you, which is not the case. Let's keep watching.
Would you see me as less of one?
What?
Would you see me as less of a man? I grew up in the Catholic Church.
Jesus, I don't know what to say.
You don't have to say anything. Just know we are always here. Oh, Bear, I'm so sorry.
I think I could watch that 100 times and I would cry every time. You know, what I think about when I watch this scene is that all of us have so much to carry in life, obviously some more than others. And life is so hard. I think a lot about relationships and how each person is carrying so much. And then they have to carry the weight of the dynamics of their relationships. And most don't have the inner resources to manage all of it, meaning insight and self-awareness and emotional regulation and ultimately healing and personal growth. I believe that there are answers for Donny, starting with his relationship with his father and the impact of his father's abuse.
I slept 12 hours that night and woke up to a new dawn. I felt lighter somehow, amazed even by the sudden peace I found within myself.
So that was a healing moment for both of them. Sorry, I cry very easily. You can see it in both of their faces. And Donny shares with us that he felt lighter and he felt peace. He connected with his father. And although it was through shared trauma, it was heartfelt connection and may have been the beginning of moving out of shame and self-loathing and moving forward into understanding and growth and self-compassion. At least that's my hope for both of them. Okay, so the speculation, which is just about Donny's father, not his mother. It's possible that Donny's father, who seemed to struggle with his own unresolved trauma and rage, may have found it difficult to provide the emotional availability and stability that Donny needed as a child. That doesn't mean that he didn't love Donny, but it could have left Donny feeling neglected and unseen and confused about his own emotions and self-worth. Donny said that for his entire life he craved to hear, "I believe in you." He said he lacked confidence, and in a very dysfunctional way he felt seen by Martha. We don't know what his father's coping mechanisms were, but it could have been withdrawal or anger or substance abuse, maybe all of it, teaching Donny that this is how men handle their emotions. If his father's own trauma led to poor boundaries, Donny may have grown up without understanding healthy limits, and that would result in either weak boundaries leading to harm or rigid ones keeping others out. And clearly we witnessed that. Donny had very poor, weak boundaries with Martha and confused ones with Teri. So the unspoken shame in his family may have caused Donny to internalize low self-worth, making it difficult for him to believe he deserves or even knows how to have healthy, loving relationships. And I'll say more about that when I just dive into his relationships with Martha, Darrien, and Teri. All of this leads to Donny's relationship with Martha. Oh my goodness, where do you even begin with Donny and Martha? How about at the very beginning?
I felt sorry for her. That's the first feeling I felt. How about I give you a cup of tea on the house?
So So the first question asked is, why did he feel sorry for her within seconds? When we have a very quick reaction of someone, we are likely projecting, meaning that he was unconsciously seeing something in her that he struggles with within himself. When you look at Martha, you can see her intense need and longing in her eyes. And Donny shares, likely, the same strong need. It's this shared need that likely brought them together, as well as this.
London to fulfill my lifelong dream of becoming a comedian, but for whatever reason found myself late 20s, working a dead-end job and living rent-free with my ex-girlfriend's mother in a massive house miles out of town. I had arrived with such grand plans to be someone, as though my brand of wacky bullshit comedy was exactly what this world-leading city was missing. But that's the thing with London. It red carpets for no one. It's like waking up one day to find yourself a background artist in a cast of millions. So when someone sees you through the mire of it all, sees you as the person you came here to be, you notice them. You notice them noticing you.
This is what I mentioned earlier, that Donny had a need to be seen and believed in because he likely didn't experience that growing up. I mean, maybe he had moments of it here and there, but deep down overall, he really struggled with that. What he didn't understand is that it takes a very long time, sometimes years, to be truly, authentically seen by another person, because we are so complex as human beings. But his desperation to be seen and believed in was so deep-seated in him. And Donny had huge red flags that he ignored.
Like, want to unzip people and climb inside them.
I can't say it's an impulse I've had very often, no.
I wish humans had a chin zip, one that would open all the way to their bellies. I just unzip them and tuck myself away.
This sends a chill down my spine, and it should have made Donny run and run fast. Her deep desire is almost like she wants to be in utero, to be carried and loved and cared for and start all over. She had the needs of an infant, and Martha's needs run deep, reflecting her early unmet needs that feel almost primal. But he didn't run, so the question is, why not?
Not sure what's come over me.
Then I would look at her in the most vulnerable moments. Martha, are you okay? And it all just came back to those same feelings of empathy which got me here.
So empathy was not the only thing that got him there. Like I said, it was projection. And projection is when we unconsciously place our own feelings, thoughts, and experiences onto someone else, often seeing our own emotions in them, which is something that many of us do, often without even realizing. Like Donny feeling sorry for someone because it reflects his own sense of hurt. And Donny's projections onto Martha, they ran so deep. He saw her depth of need, believing that perhaps by tending to her, he could somehow mend his own brokenness. Again, this is subconscious and speculation on my part. But as he sought to fill Martha's perceived emptiness, he was perhaps trying to fill his own emptiness. And Donny may have also been projecting his need for love and validation and acceptance onto her. And in doing so, he became blinded to the reality of their connection. He was blinded to how Martha was different from him, to separate his needs and vulnerabilities from her needs and vulnerabilities. Donny was often caught between his projections and the reality of Martha's obsessive, disturbing behavior, as we see throughout the series.
Here you are! You cowardly, two-timing the nerve you showed me the other night, rubbing that skank in my face!
All right, that's enough.
Martha, please.
Names?
Martha, please, let go.
Don't you dare! Me under no circumstances. No, he's above all over this one. A proper dirty...
So he appears shocked and surprised when he should not be. However, when I talked about his experiences growing up, I speculated that his father was perhaps at times unstable emotionally, maybe showing extreme mood swings and intense rage. So for Donny, this may have been his normal. Not that his dad was the same as Martha. It may have been that Donny's dad had a very strong foundation with his upbringing. He may have come from a very loving family, only to experience his sexual trauma within the Catholic Church when he was older. And I believe that because his father may have had a strong foundation from the beginning, that's why he was able to share his trauma and embrace Donny. He had something within him to do so. Martha does not. Her need runs deep. Like I said, primitive, like an infant. Perhaps again, I am speculating, but it just seems when she talks about wanting to be unzip and go inside someone, that feels primitive to me. Let me say this. Sometimes one of the most difficult things to do, though, in a relationship is sort out how someone is different from another, or how we as individuals are different from another person. So, for example, when someone says to me, my spouse is just like my father or my mother, I always ask them, how are they different? This question almost always stumps people. You must sort out how a person is different from another person. It's impossible for two people to be exactly the same. And when you do this, you have a clearer picture of a person, whether that's positive or negative, but you have clarity. And Donny needed to sort out how he is different from Martha. So for example, Martha is extremely obsessive and intrusive and has extremes in her, which is called splitting, and Donny is not. And I'll talk more about how they are different as we go on. Let's talk about one more important aspect of the relationship between Donny and Martha, and that's Donny's sometimes, not always, perceived control of Martha.
£2.50, please.
You never charge me.
I have to.
I can't afford it.
Thought you were a lawyer, no?
What are you being weird for?
No, I'm not. I just think maybe it's time we drew a few boundaries.
You said...
Martha, I've got hot plates in my hand. Will you just stop fussing around me, please?
Look, Martha, just go back home.
You're really getting on my nerves.
Your mouth and listen to me. There isn't a parallel world where I would want you. Okay, so you stay away from me.
Donny's inconsistent boundaries with Martha might reflect his own internal conflict and unresolved struggles. One moment he's pushing her away, and the next he's drawn back, showing how deeply he is affected by his past. And let me say this about boundaries. Boundaries are not what we tell another person to do, because we don't have control over another person. Boundaries are choices that we make because that's what we have control over. So one minute Donny is telling Martha to go away, leave him alone, and that he will never be with her, and then next he's asking her if she's okay. Donny acts almost as if he can control Martha when he tells her to leave him alone or stop. He fails to recognize that he does not have control over her or anyone. And it's hard to know how Donny experienced control and boundaries growing up, but it appears that he received confusing messages about control and boundaries.
Me away? I can help you, you know.
Oh, help with what?
The person. The one that hurt you.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
He was a man, wasn't it? What did he do to you?
Okay, I'm just gonna leave. Yeah? I'm just gonna turn and walk away, and you're not to follow.
I'm serious, Martha. Get off me. I'm not messing here, all right? Keep your hands to yourself.
Oh! Martha, wait, stop.
Keep still.
So this was a trauma reaction for Donny. He was triggered regarding his past sexual trauma, and he experienced what's called a trauma freeze. He literally froze and his body could not move. And what is so sad is that he blamed himself by saying, "Why did I let that happen?" Which is sadly a very common response. And that leads us to talk about Donny's trauma with Darrien. And I will finish with the healthiest relationship that he had with Teri, the one that I believe she was the person that he loved, and she was the voice of reason, but his trauma prevented him from moving forward into a healthy relationship. I'll talk about that next, but let's first talk about Darrien. This was so real, so heavy, and what I want to do with this is try to tie together with understanding and compassion, and of course some speculation, how Donny ended up there. In episode 4, we watched Donny struggle with his comic act. People walk out the door while he holds a bucket, hoping that they will give him money. He gets nothing, which must have felt incredibly humiliating. And then he meets Darrien.
Come down and see it if you can.
Lolon Cancer.
Yeah, it's a great title, isn't it?
We'll try.
So you guys seen anything decent?
See you later.
Yep.
Wankers, aren't they?
Yeah, terrible first impression on my part, though.
Shocking. You'll never work in the industry again.
Chance would be a fine thing. See that guy over there?
Yeah.
He wrote Cottonmouth. It's amazing. Have you seen it?
Bits and bobs, not my thing.
Then you're mental. Should be illegal for people to be that young and that successful.
Want to slip poison in his drink?
Wow, that's dark.
If someone said to me, you want me to slip poison in his drink, that would be a major red flag for me. And while Donny does say that's dark, he also feels supported. And Donny, without knowing, just communicated that the writer, Darrien, was amazing and wildly successful. So he is, without knowing, stroking Darrien's ego.
So my mum died today. I guess this is what she would have wanted.
Jesus, at 20.
Well, I didn't get a goodbye last night, so I thought I'd come get it now.
Oh, right. Well, goodbye. No, wait, I'm joking. Sorry.
You're strange.
Am I? Shit.
Don't worry. I don't mind a bit of strange. Let's meet and talk. Might have a few pointers how to take this show to the next level.
Wow, yeah, I mean...
And so it begins. We see Donny's yearning for approval, his desperation for someone to believe in him and help him and guide him. And Darrien, the perpetrator that he is, sees Donny's vulnerability and he will prey on that.
Then every night I would go out with Darrien and live life like a celebrity in the main private members bar in town, drinking cocktails until the early hours, talking endlessly about the show and what we were going to do with it when the festival was over.
We need to get you performing this show in London.
Darrien was like no one I'd ever met before, a self-prescribed
Buddhist, polyamorous pansexual with a taste for the finer things in life.
Within 2 weeks of knowing him, he'd opened my eyes to the kind of excitement I didn't even know existed.
It's hard to yell for help when you're chained to a radiator with a ball gag in your mouth.
And as we sat in that private members bar and put the world to rights, I felt like I was gliding on the winds of change. Like this man was dangling some keys to a secret club, and all I needed to do was take his hand and let him guide me.
So Donny feels special, seen as he has been craving to be seen. And he believes that he has found a trusted mentor who believes and supports him when he doesn't believe in himself. And Darrien has power over Donny simply by the position he holds in the industry. But he portrays himself as, I don't know, kind of aloof, when in fact he's not. He's very full of himself. And when you meet someone of power who shows you kindness, shows that they want to help, this is intoxicating to anyone, but especially for Donny, who said he craved his whole life for someone to believe in him. And it just, even saying that chokes me up, because he had this incredible deep need that someone took full advantage of.
We need to get you writing scripts with me.
Yeah, I mean, that would be amazing, yeah.
Are you ready?
I'm ready for anything, yeah.
Good. Yeah. Good lad.
You know, I just first want to say that as I'm watching this, I'm thinking about my own mentor, Walt, who's no longer with us. And You know, everybody that I counsel knows about Walt because he had such a huge positive influence in my life. And a trusted mentor can mean so much to a person. This was incredibly manipulative. When Darrien says, let's get you writing scripts with me, it taps into everything Donny craves: approval, validation, support, and guidance from someone powerful whom he admires and now depends on, keyword depends on, for success. And Donny's fear of failure and his desperation to meet the image he believes Darrien has of him drives him to do anything, even drugs. And you could see he was unsure. He didn't really want to go down that road, but he can't bear the thought of being seen as anything less than what he imagined Darrien expects, and he won't risk disappointing him.
I miss Darrien. I miss the confidence he gave me, the feeling of relevancy, of hope that one day my life might actually lead somewhere. Now, a body in a sea of black, I felt like a nobody again, like I was shrinking from the world just as I developed a taste for it.
So that's a lot of power and control to give to one person. I won't show you the sexual trauma scene, but I will say that Darrien breaks down Donny's sense of self, violates him, and manipulates him to stay in control. This is how abusers often dominate their victims. They use psychological tactics to trap them in fear and dependency and distorted reality, making it hard to escape. And then what this show does so well is it shows how the victim blames themselves.
I could never tell whether these feelings were because of him, or whether they always existed deep down. Like, did it all happen because I was giving off some vibe I wasn't aware of? Or did what happened make me this way? I would go down the street and feel like everyone who looked at me could see what I was going through. Like they were peering into my soul, seeing the rape and the doubts and the confusion. Like my eyes were these windows onto the most tightly held secret of my life.
So he's referring to self-blame and shame and self-loathing. It is so present for him that he feels and believes that everyone else can see it, and he just wants to hide. This is why this scene was so powerful for him, what I'm going to show you now. Again, that scene gets me every time, because not only did he not experience being blamed and shamed by his parents, but his father's admission of his sexual trauma in some way was the beginning of freeing him. Because when you look at someone you love and they tell you of their trauma, it is clear as day that they are not to be blamed or shamed. I don't know how long he is able to hold on to that, to letting go of the shame and self-blame, but I think it's a beautiful start to his journey towards healing. Okay, let's talk about Donny's relationship with Teri. And as I said, Teri was the one person I believe that he loved. She was the voice of reason, but his trauma prevented him from moving forward into a healthy relationship with her. And as we watch this scene, remember that Donny created an entirely new identity named Tony when he went on a date with Teri.
That much? She's a fantasist who's fabricated an entire identity for herself. Does that not scream alarm bells, Tony?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, people lie for all sorts of reasons.
Not like this, they don't. Promise me you're enjoying this.
Oh, come on, Teri, you've read a few emails. Stop acting like you know the situation.
You know, I Googled her. Why didn't you tell me that she'd been to jail before?
Didn't seem relevant.
See what I mean? Any sane person who was getting stalked by a violent ex-convict wouldn't hesitate to go to the police. But not you. To you, she's harmless. To you, she's sympathetic. To you, it's not relevant? I'm just saying, there's a reason you're keeping her around, and maybe it's not so much who she is, but what she gives you.
So Teri challenges him by saying that Martha created an identity for herself as he sits there in his own false identity. But what he doesn't grasp is that Martha's lies are fundamentally different from his, both unhealthy. But Martha's lies are compulsive and driven by her obsessive and delusional view of her relationship with Donny. They reflect her mental health struggles and serve to maintain her distorted sense of reality and connection to Donny. But in contrast, Donny lies, such as inventing his persona Tony to date Teri. His lies are deliberate and manipulative. They reflect his desire to control how others see him, allowing him to explore or escape his own reality. His lies are strategic, designed to manipulate perceptions, while Martha's lies are chaotic, stemming from her inability to see reality clearly and fueled by her obsession. And although Donny and Martha's actions aren't healthy, both of them are deeply hurt. And Donny finds it difficult to separate his struggles from Martha's, which makes setting boundaries challenging for him. So by excusing Martha's behavior as he was doing with Teri, he may also be trying to find compassion for his own pain, making it harder for him to see things clearly.
Those guys are such assholes. Did you tell them you have a big fancy comedy final coming up?
No, I don't think the prospect of becoming the laughing duck in your act of the year would have done me many favors in a conversation like that.
Well, they'll be laughing on the other side of their face when you take home the crown.
I like that attitude.
Teri is the one person who lovingly supports him, attempts to hold him accountable, but when she asks for more intimacy, he knows that he is still lying to her, and while Teri is the one person who lovingly supports him and holds him accountable, Donny's struggle with intimacy is deeply tied to his trauma. His avoidance is not just about lying, it's a reflection of his pain, his fear, and shame. A trauma response that makes it hard for him to fully engage.
Not Tony.
I knew it. What's your real name?
It's Donny.
Oh, so you can be honest with your stalker, but not with me. I mean, is anything you told me true? Your ballsy building job, for one?
No.
Why? Why lie?
I don't know. I just felt vulnerable. I guess it just helped me ease into it, you know, pretending to be someone else, someone, I don't know, manly.
So he eventually tells her the truth. And then they try to move forward, but his trauma derails their relationship. Sexually, he struggles because of his sexual trauma, and ultimately his trauma impacts her.
Makes you bi?
Because I feel like a fraud no matter who I sleep with.
What's it gonna take to give you some confidence, huh? Seriously, think about it. I'm not sure you ever have.
I don't know, what's that phrase? You know, the one about dancing and watching?
Confidence is dancing like no one's watching you?
This has anything to do with all this awkward sex stuff.
No, it's the way you make me feel during the sex stuff.
Days spent predominantly in bed, skulking around the house in yesterday's clothes, blurring the line between night and day without her usual spark.
And then she had enough.
It sounded like you were blaming me for all this. Only you could make out that having a violent stalker ruining my life is somehow my fault.
You really want to go there?
Yeah, I actually do.
I think you love it. I think it fits you perfectly having her in your life. Seeing you as the thing you try so hard to be. She's the embodiment of all your nasty repressions bottled up into one human being. I can't have this endless disorder in my life.
Oh, hold on. Are you breaking up with me? Because of her?
No. Because of you.
That was such a powerful scene. Donny struggles to see his role in his relationship with Martha. which is common when you're caught up in something so close. You know, I always say that when things are right in front of us, it's so much harder to see it, but with distance, we have more clarity. And Teri, she had distance, so she could see things more clearly. And Donny finds it hard to tell when he's being victimized and when he's avoiding responsibility, and it's easy for those lines to blur. I thought it was heartbreaking for Donny to see Teri move on, but she needed to, because Donny still had his own healing to do before he can be in a healthy relationship. It just feels so unfair that we have to deal with the impact of our traumas, but doing the hard work of healing allows us to move beyond shame and blame and find that self-compassion and self-love and the understanding that you and everyone else deserves. So in the end, Baby Reindeer shows us how deeply our relationships and past traumas impact us and how we connect with others. Donny's story is an important reminder of the power of understanding with compassion and the difficult yet necessary journey towards healing. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this deep dive offered you some insights into the complexities of our shared human experiences in our lives. And if you choose to subscribe, I really do appreciate your support, and I hope that my content supports you in return. See you in the next video.